Revelation 16, we're looking at verses 12 through 16. And so let me read those out loud. This is the sixth bowl. And verse 12, the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs, for they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world, to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. Oh, thank you. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who stays awake, keeping his garments on, that he may not go about naked and be seen exposed. Verse 16, and they assembled them at the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. And so we've talked quite a bit about, last time, you may recall, we kind of summed up some of the effects of these bowls, of these judgments. Are you able to see that okay? Is that too glary? Okay. Is it glary? Okay. Is it, you know what, I don't know what we do about that other than maybe just move that light out of the way for a minute. Or put it down.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
Good? Okay, just the angle, much better. Thank you. Thank you for the candy and the water. And we've mentioned, so we looked at kind of the sum total of what's going on. We've concluded unbearable misery. We talked last time about some of the things that aren't necessarily mentioned. Sometimes we have a way of we look at Scripture and we look at exactly what's stated there, and we don't always put the pieces together, which is appropriate, to put pieces together. There's obvious things that would happen if you didn't have protection from the sun, if it was excessively heat. There's obviously going to be sunburns, dehydration. If you had a lot of things dying in the ocean, etc., it's going to stink. So there's sometimes these things that we don't talk about. And we said that unlike the 5 bowls, the 6, like the fifth seal in Revelation 6, has no specific assault on humanity. Okay, there's not a specific assault, detail, if you will. And if you go back and you look at the 5th seal, it was similar. Are you leaving? Okay, all right. Love you.
Love you.
Thanks for hanging out. Oh, say that again. Did you hear your voice? Say, I love you.
Love you.
Okay. All right. I think you got to say that again. All right. Say it again.
No.
Yeah. Okay, what?
No.
What are you not going to say? Are you not going to say I love you? Okay. I'll see you later. I love you. I thought she'd like to hear her voice over the microphone. And if you go back to Revelation 6, 9 through 11, we're not going to look at it, but the 5th seal, like the 6th bowl here, there's no specific assault on humanity, but it prepares for what is to come in both cases. The Euphrates River is the largest river in the world, as I understand it, and the Euphrates appears early in Revelation. If you go back to chapter 9, the 6th trumpet, the Euphrates pops up there. What happened there? Anybody remember? I'd give you a chocolate candy bar if you remembered, but that's when 200 million demons that were bound were released. A whole bunch of demons were released. Look at Revelation 9:14, and the Euphrates appears, I think, for the first time in Revelation then. And it is the longest, it's the most significant river in the Middle East. It is sometimes referred to as the Great River. Perhaps in Genesis 15 and Deuteronomy and Joshua, the Great River would be the river Euphrates because of how long it is. The sources for the water come from the snowfields and the ice caps on the slope of Mount Ararat. Everybody familiar with, at least with the name Mount Ararat, is in Turkey. And it is believed by some that that's where the ark, Noah's Ark, is. And there's been some interesting writing. It's frozen year-round. They believe that the ark may be frozen in the tundra on top of Mount Ararat. Kind of a fascinating idea and plausible. 1,800 miles. So from Mount Ararat, the Euphrates River flows 1,800 miles and it empties into the Persian Gulf. In ancient times, the Garden of Eden was located in the vicinity of the Euphrates. The Euphrates formed the eastern boundary of the land that God gave to Israel in Genesis 15. And along with the other, one of the other main rivers is the Tigris. The Euphrates is still the lifeblood of the Fertile Crescent. So when you historically, you'll see the Fertile Crescent, and you'll see these two rivers in particular, and how they play into the Fertile Crescent being the Fertile Crescent. Without the water, it would not be very fertile, wouldn't be very good for it growing. So by the time the sixth bowl is poured out, the Euphrates is going to be very different than it is today or than it's ever been. Of course, it's already much different, they believe, than what it was historically, which makes sense. But even during these judgments that we've read a little bit about, what's going to be happening here? Well, first of all, if you have this massive heat, if the blazing heat from the sun that's associated with the fourth bowl is going to melt away the snow, it's going to melt away the ice caps on Mount Ararat and more. And what's going to happen?
Methane gas.
The volume, nothing good? Is that said? Yes. Yeah, by the way, I heard that I got a note in, this is a complete aside, not completely, but yeah, in Snowflake, they had, there's a facility I go to that's on alert to relocate because of a flood in town. Have you heard that, George? So apparently, yeah, that's what I just got the text, well, late last night, got an alert that there's, facility where people are on alert to relocate because of potential flooding, which I'm thinking, where's the water coming from in Snowflake?
Must have got a lot of rain.
You know, the washes, I mean, they don't have, Silver Creek.
There's a wash that's at capacity and overflowing, and that's why they're warning, especially up by Hobart area, Little Colorado, same thing.
Yeah, a little, okay, well, I figured it had to be one of those washes, but, so the Euphrates, nothing good is going to happen, Susan, right? And the Euphrates will be full because of the melting snow, and it'll be overflowing. There'll be massive damage. There'll be a lot of flooding along its course, which is apropos for us as we look at some of the floods, and maybe we know some different people that have been flooded, and recently and they've shut down streets. You know, we had the big rain on Thursday, and so we can identify just a tiny bit maybe with what it's going to be like, and it's on our minds a little bit more. The bridges spanning the rivers are going to destroy what happens when a river overflows a bridge. Well, eventually it comes up, and then the river, it depends on how much latitude there is, and usually there isn't that much, so the water comes to a bridge, it comes to the bottom of the bridge, the debris comes up here, the debris begins to get trapped against the bridge, and so it's this pounding besides the force of the water, and so more debris builds up, more force behind it, the water begins to go outside the bridge, it'll flood whatever's on the side of it, on and on it goes. Have any of you ever seen that? Other than the news maybe? So you can picture the bridges, and the water comes up, and the bridges are going to be destroyed. That creates its own chain reaction as well. As the angel dumps the bowl, the Euphrates water, the Euphrates water's dried up, so that the water is going to be prepared for the kings of the east.
Pastor,
Oh yes, Tani?
where does it say, or was it 20 million demons coming out of the river?
I don't know, sound like a good number.
I'm trying to find it, but I do have trouble reading my glasses aren't that, I don't know. So it might be right in front of me, but I just can't see it. But I was wondering, where did it say that? Well, I never knew that before, that all these demons would be rising out of the river. Well, 9:14, but I couldn't find it, I was reading it, I can't find it. 9:14, but it says that 4 angels were gonna come out and kill a third of mankind.
Verse 16, the number of mounted troops was twice 10,000 times 10,000. I heard the number.
16? Oh, 916? Yeah. 916.
Well, the whole paragraph. I just referred, I think, to verse 14. I'd have to double check.
Oh, 200 million. Number of, let's see, what does that say? Number of the armies, of the horsemen, 200 million. Okay, and those were the demons, and they were actually coming out of the Euphrates?
Yeah, I think, and I'll double check. I'll play with that in my mind, but
I think that's
What verse is that, Connie?
916.
so if you go to the beginning, the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star falling from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace in the sun, and the air was darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions. They were told not to harm the grass, etc., etc. Verse 7, in appearance the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold. The faces were like human faces, their hair like women's hair. But all of this is coming from the bottomless pit, and so we would best understand these as demons. Whatever else, we and understand John's describing what he has never seen, what mankind has never seen, and he has to use what's familiar to people. And that's why we want to be careful about being too literal with some of these things, which people tend to do when they've studied Revelation. They draw these all as locusts with human faces and whatever. John is doing the best to describe something that is indescribable. And of course, if you describe something, what do? You use what is familiar to you and the people that you're talking to. Now, the problem in eschatology many times is when Christians have come this and they've drawn these figures, exactly with these features, and John is very clear that this is what it looks like. They were like this, they were like that. But anyway, these are the demons that are coming out. And one of the things that we said, worth repeating briefly, is that there are demons, there is oppressive forces in demonic form that are held back right now from the world. As much evil and wickedness and demonic activity as there may be, there are great forces that are still held back by God, benevolently so, that will be released during this time. And we Christians today, especially in the Western, we have trouble even believing in demons. Not that we should worry about them, but Satan is alive and well and at work, and so are his demons, however many are at work right now. We want to be careful. We're not to be afraid of them. We also don't need to study them. Let's study the truth. Let's make sure we live the way the Lord wants us to live, and these things are not a problem for us. Not that they don't have an impact, but they're nothing that we should be afraid of in terms of fearing, cowering, fleeing, things like that. One of the things that we see here in our text, back to chapter 16, is the eastern armies are going to need to cross to the Euphrates to reach their ultimate destination. And their ultimate destination is Armageddon. So let's see, that's a silver alert, an amber alert, or a flood alert. Probably not a fire right now. Probably not a fire. I'm guessing. But yeah. God's drying up of the Euphrates isn't an act of kindness toward the kings of the east, but it's one of judgment. So they and their armies are going to be entering a deadly trap, and the evaporation of the Euphrates is going to lead them to their doom, just as the parting of the Red Sea led to the destruction of the Egyptian army. Why they will make the daunting journey that's going to take them to their doom through the drought, scorching heat, darkness, and their painful sores is stated right here in the text. So Good question. Why would they do that? Verse 13, and I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs, for they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. So why are they doing this? Because the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet are assembling them. They're calling them. We would say, why in the world, with all this stuff happening, would you even do that? And we could certainly offer some conjecture, and we could have some fun with it, but we don't know necessarily. We can guess. Why would they who are suffering so greatly respond to this call to assemble and to travel, other than they believe that by conquering God, in essence, they could control their destiny and maybe have some relief? I mean, you got to believe that. Why else would you follow the false prophet and the dragon and the beast? But it's going to be difficult. We don't know the human motives for sure of this invasion force. Is it political rebellion? Is it just rabid anti-Semitism? They're assembling in Israel, remember. What's the real reason behind this? And I don't think we could ever know unless God told us. In this vision, something out of a horror movie, somebody suggested, John saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the prophet, 3 unclean spirits, like frogs. What does a mouth symbolize, by the way? It comes out of the mouth. What does a mouth symbolize? Well, influence, persuasion, right? So when you think of the mouth, you think of somebody trying to inform you, persuade you, influence you. And so the mouth, the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So the idea is it symbolizes the source of influence. These 3 beings are the source of influence. This is what we called in the past the unholy trinity. The unholy trinity here, the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. And these unclean spirits is how John describes them, come out of the mouth of this unholy trinity. The dragon is Satan, the beast is Antichrist, and the false prophet is the false religious leader, if you will. And we shouldn't interpret these as literal frogs. That's not, I think, at all what John is saying. But why would he use the idea of frog? What might it be if it's not a literal frog? And he's talking about unclean spirits.
Something ugly and crawling.
You're kind of close, Tani. Yeah. Frogs were unclean animals. Okay, so while these aren't literal frogs, they would certainly represent that which is unclean and unholy, and maybe slimy, crawly, despicable things that we don't want to be around or embrace or chase or hold, as may the case be. John identified this frog-like apparition, if you will, as spirits of demons. Now it gets a little bit more graphic, doesn't it? These revolting, disgusting, little slimy, cold-blooded, vile, whatever you want to call them, frogs. And now he says these are demons. These are the spirits of demons. And these demons seduce the kings from the east into making this journey to their doom in Armageddon under the deluding influence. As part of the deception, the demons are no doubt going to perform supernatural signs. You either rule by fear. How do you influence? Well, fear is a good one. And there have been demagogues and totalitarian dictators and such that use fear. You think of the horrendous World War II and over in Russia, over in China. Why do they do some of the things they do? Out of fear. Okay? If they don't do it, they get killed. If they don't do it, their family gets killed. On it goes. And so somehow they get influence, and fear is one motivator for sure. And so maybe some of the great signs they used before were fire coming down out of heaven. In Revelation 13, maybe fire is going to come down again. Interesting, we just talked about James and John today. Lord, can we call fire down from heaven? Well, during the Revelation, there will be fire coming down from heaven, according to Revelation 13:13. And this enables them to deceive. It enables the unholy Trinity to deceive the people, the leaders, the kings especially, that will assemble these armies. Those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which it was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, Revelation 13:14. He was even to persuade those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. This is all from Revelation 13. So these unclean spirits of demons will work lying wonders to deceive the eastern kings. And that shouldn't surprise us or seem impossible to us. These demons are going to have powers of deception. It shouldn't surprise us. Okay? Shouldn't surprise us at all. Jesus predicted that false Christs and false prophets are going to show signs and wonders. And why? In order to lead some astray. And to do so, even if possible, the elect. Mark chapter 13 and 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. By the way, a side note here is that's why we need to be discerning. We need to know the truth. We need to judge right and wrong, biblical, unbiblical. We need to not fall for a lot of the lies and deception that you see today as much as ever before. Stick to the truth, the Word of God, and be wary or leery of those who are trying to, they're sensationalizing, they're entertaining, they're showing signs or wonders or whatever it's going to be. And we don't need to judge whether it's, that truly happened, it truly didn't. If it's extra biblical, it's extra biblical and not of God. And this is what they're going to be doing. These will be legitimate signs, miracles, if you will, and the false prophet especially is going to perform them. And the spirits of demons are going to perform them in order to deceive. And it's a little bit sobering when we read to deceive, if possible, the elect. Is that a little bit sobering? To think that even, but it's also encouraging. The encouraging part is, if possible. The influence, the persuasiveness of these miracles is going to be great. But if you're truly saved, you're going to discern. And that should bring us comfort. Alarm us on the one hand, comfort on the other, and that's a good thing. These demons are going to have even greater powers of deception than we've seen so far. That's even the deception that we see there in Revelation 13. These demons that are coming out here are going to be more deceptive than anything that's been seen heretofore. The mission of the demons is to gather not just the eastern powers of the world rulers and the armies to join the forces from the east for the war of the great day of God, but in their pride, in their ignorance, in their folly, the demonically deceived nations of the world are going to converge on Palestine to do battle with God himself. And take a look at 17, skip to the next chapter for just a moment, and notice verse 12, and the 10 horns that you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind. I'm reading verse 13 now of chapter 17. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. Verse 14. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Isn't that a great passage? Those who are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So they're going to war with God, and that's what it tells us there in chapter 17. Turn to Joel chapter 3, and would like somebody to read a couple verses for us. Joel, one of the minor prophets, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah. So turn to Joel chapter 3, or you can turn to the last chapter, whichever one you want. Joel 3, the last chapter, or chapter 3. It's your choice.
Verse?
2. Let's let everybody get there. Caleb, if you're going to read it, thank you. And then I want you to read verse 2 and then skip down to verse 9 and then read that section 9 through 13. But let everybody get to it. Some people are still turning. If you get to the minor prophets, first one is Hosea, and the very next book is Joel. Thank you. I'm conducting. Joel has a lot of unfulfilled prophecies, a lot of end time, last day prophecies are yet to be fulfilled, even though it's a pretty small book.
So it's Joel 3:16?
No, it'll be 3:2, and then Caleb will read verses 9 through 13, but we'll make sure everybody gets there first. And I hope you'll tie this into what we're studying here. This is an important passage in Joel that helps bring clarity and helps show the connection between the Old and New Testament rather clearly.
Hold everything.
No rush.
Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel. Yeah.
So Joel chapter 3, we'll read verse 2 and then skip down to 9 and read 9 through 13.
I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people and my heritage Israel, because they have scattered them among the nations and have divided up my land. Proclaim this, verse 9, among the nations. Consecrate for war. Stir up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am a warrior. Hasten and come, all you surrounding nations, and gather yourselves there. Bring down your warriors, O Lord. Let the nations stir themselves up and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Go in, tread, for the winepress is full. The vats overflow, for the evil is great.
Thank you, son. And a couple thoughts here. Put in the sickle. Remember when we gave out the sickles a while ago and field is white to harvest, and we think of that, and we think of harvesting souls, which is a true application. But more to the point and more common in Scripture, the reaping is a judgment of unbelievers. And this is an example of that. I don't know if you remember that message a while ago, and you got a sickle that Karen Richardson had engraved a little bit. But to go out the fields white to harvest, you know, some of that harvest, of course, is to Christ. And it's also the greater picture is the impact, the judgment that's going to happen. And that's what Joel is talking about here. And then also verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords, your pruning hooks into spears. And then ties into Isaiah chapter 2. Then you also take your swords and turn them into plowshares, and you take your spears and turn them into pruning hooks. And we look forward to that as well. And so according to Revelation 17, 10 kings are going to be involved. And Joel prophesied here in chapter 3 that God's going to gather the nations together. You don't have to turn there, but in Zechariah chapter 14, for I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be captured, the houses plundered, the women ravished, and half of the city exiled, but the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as when he fights on the day of battle. Zechariah 14. And then in Psalm chapter 2, why are the nations in an uproar? Why do the heathens rage? And the peoples devise vain things. The kings of the earth take their stand. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us tear their fetters apart and cast away their cords from us. This war is going to be quickly over. These will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. Remember what we read in Revelation 17 a moment ago? And because he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. In fact, we might say it's not a war at all. It's going to be a slaughter. And turn to Revelation 19. Revelation 19. And notice verse 11. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I hope that you'll make a note of this. But if you start in Revelation 19, verse 11, and then read through 21, and I'm just going to read through the end. Verse 11, then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. This is the battle of Armageddon here in Revelation 19. This is the battle that we're learning a little bit about in 16 and 17. It is the battle, I think, that there is a reference to by Zechariah, by Joel, by others, other Old Testament prophets. And notice verse 17. Then I saw, I'm still Revelation 19, so Revelation 19:17. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun with a loud voice. He called to the birds that fly directly overhead, come gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of the kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses and the riders, and the flesh of all men, both free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings. There's a little bit more there. The beast was captured with the false prophet, verse 20. Notice then the latter part of 20. These two were thrown alive into a lake of fire that burns with sulfur. Who's thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur? The beast and the false prophet. Who's not mentioned here? Yeah, the dragon or Satan isn't mentioned here. Verse 21, and the rest were slain by the sword that came from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds were gorged with their flesh. The Battle of Armageddon.
You said it's held in Israel over there. Is that where?
Yeah. Can you throw up a map real quick of?
Megiddo?
Yes. So in the northern part of Galilee, below Mount Carmel, is the valley of Megiddo, and that is Armageddon. And there's some really great pictures. I think Caleb will probably find a good one for us here, and we'll throw it up there. So that's where the Battle of Armageddon takes place. The armies from the east, think of Middle East, think of the Euphrates, all that. So the armies of the east are going to converge on Palestine, on Israel, up in the northern part, Galilee, in the valley of what we know of as Megiddo, for the Battle of Armageddon. And that's what's being described here for us.
How big is that valley? We know the San Joaquin Valley, that's huge. Is it as big as San Joaquin Valley?
Oh, not even close. Yeah, you'll see in just a minute, I think, if we get a good picture. It's good size. I don't know the dimensions. It's big enough to have 200 square miles of blood this high. Whatever the horse's bridle is, but you think about that, blood flowing. I can't, no matter how much you may try, you can't fathom that amount of blood. But it's a massive army that's going to converge on that place, and they're battling God himself.
I'm glad that the birds were given the cleanup, it's a good cleanup crew, because, it'll be horrible if the birds didn't do that.
Well, and what's interesting is that over near Gamla, this side of it, there's these vulture-type birds that have fairly recently began to gather in that area, and recently, maybe in recent years. And these are some kind of a vulture kind. When we were there last, Dr. Bob pointed them out.
You saw them, or they're like condors?
Kind of like, but they're not condors, they're not vultures, I don't believe. But it's the same thing. Are you finding it? Okay, where's Carmel? Give me a point of reference. Mount Carmel. Carmel Corn. Okay. Well, there's the Valley of Megiddo. You can get an idea. What's the scale on that?
2,000 feet would be about
That's a military place. You can see the airstrip. You see
It'll
no
be right in
airplanes. Yeah, but that's the Valley of Megiddo, and that's Carmel right there, I'll bet.
Yep.
Okay, so there's Mount Carmel. Okay, think Elijah. Think of the battle there, and then can you zoom out a little bit? And okay, can you show the mountains? Okay, so you have the high spot there. That's Carmel, and then north. Okay, yeah, go out a little bit more. That gives you an idea. Okay, that's probably good. Okay, so the Sea of Galilee. Point that out, son, Hun, son. Okay, so there's the Sea of Galilee. Okay, and point out Mount Carmel. Just above there, right there. Okay, so there's Mount Carmel. Okay, generally speaking, you would consider that whole area between Carmel and you have that, see that, the high part, Arbel Cliffs, just
Over here? No. Where is
right
it?
there. No,
Here?
left, no.
Here?
Okay, right there, stop.
Right there.
I'm getting seasick. Okay. So you have, if you can picture my mind and what I'm pointing to, so you have the high points. Arbel Cliffs are high above the Galilee, and then to the left, that's all elevated area. Then down
Oh, hold on.
below it, that's fine, son. You can kind of tell that there's a bowl of sorts there. You have elevated terrain all the way around from Mount Carmel on the west, the Arbel Cliffs, and that's, they call that plain, that plateau, but that's an elevated area. You have an elevated area above it and an elevated area below it. So Megiddo forms a pretty nice bowl, and that is where the Battle of Armageddon will take place.
Circle where the thing is, make a circle where the,
Yeah, that white area right there?
is it to the right?
No, just think of that white area.
What are we trying to find?
The circle of the valley.
Armageddon.
Right, just go,
So here, can you see the cursor at all?
not well.
I can see the cursor.
Cell elevation's 2,000.
2 seconds here.
I need a stick to point.
Cursor, no.
Yeah, that's right, I need a pointer. Pastor, how come they don't make the Bible in chronological order? I'm looking for a Bible that's in chronological.
You can buy one.
Here we
Do
go.
they have them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't
Right
know
here.
that, I haven't
Yeah.
seen any.
Okay, so,
There's Carmel.
Okay,
Here's the high point.
is it right below Carmel then? That little white space?
okay, go to the white space in between.
So you're talking about here?
Yes. Okay, that's going to be the lowest part, generally to that and to the left and right of it. But it's a huge valley, all around there. Thank you for the little bleeping circle. That helps us.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get an idea of
It looks like there's mountains in there too, though.
They're
It's like a
hills.
valley that has
Israel,
mountains in it.
Tani, Israel has no mountains. They're hills.
Hills, well, yeah, I
So
agree.
it's
Their,
only
their mountains are like
2,000.
Tucson, Phoenix foothills.
2,000 feet, right?
They call them mountains, though.
Like Tennessee and all those places.
So
They're
you
not
can kind
mountains.
Yeah, that's not bad. So that gives you a perspective, I think. Hopefully it's helpful. And so there's farms, there's homes, there's all kinds of business. There's a big Israeli airport, a military installation there, right in the middle of it. I have shared before that when we were there one time to hear the fighter, you just don't hear planes, by the way, over Israel, any planes, period. Airlines never come over Israel. They come over the water and land in Tel Aviv. They go out over the water. And you don't even hear the fighter plane. Typically, you don't hear fighter planes or anything else. However, one time at Carmel, heard fighter jets, which we're familiar with, and out of nowhere you could hear them coming, and boom, they land, they disappear. I mean, as quick as you could imagine. They're on the ground and they disappear under the ground. It's kind of cool. And it's kind of eerie when you realize, I haven't heard a plane for 2 weeks.
Did you say underground?
Mm-hmm.
They disappear underground.
Yeah, they have in-ground bunkers. They're pretty sophisticated, as I understand it.
Good, they should.
Yeah, but it's cool to hear the fighter jets, and then to recognize this is unusual. What's going on? First of all, that's your first thought, because in 2 trips before, you never hear a fighter jet. You just don't hear anything.
Yeah.
And only the last one was there even a helicopter over Jerusalem, and that's when they had some pretty significant unrest, and people got killed when the Sabbath was coming. But and we did hear and saw some helicopters. Something else that's impressive if you're in Jerusalem, when there's tension, and there was a lot of tension, there were some people on the Temple Mount getting in our face, the gals with the black masks, and I don't know what they were saying, because I don't understand their language. Well, they weren't happy, and they were right in my face hollering, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, and I think that's when the 16-year-old boy was, that weekend, was shot with a rubber bullet and died, and they tried to run over some Hasidic Jews with there in the intersection. It's pretty, but what was impressive is here you are in Jerusalem, you got the wall and all this, and out of nowhere, hundreds of soldiers just appear. They're everywhere, but you don't see them. And they're I don't know if they're underground, or boom, they're there, riot gear, they take control. It's Israeli, and understandably so. Well, let's, couple thoughts, and we're going to finish this portion. What I started to share, any question on this, and Tani, does that help, by the way?
Yes.
Seeing that, so that's where the Battle of Armageddon will take place. And so these armies are coming from the east, Middle East, think Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan. They're coming from that general area, assembling an army, following the dragon, the beast, the false prophet, and 10 nations will be involved, and they're going to assemble, and they're going to fight God, Jesus, on the Lamb on the white horse, and they will be defeated quickly. The prophet, false prophet, and the beast will be cast in the lake of fire. Satan and the cohorts at the end of the tribulation, of course, they're going to be sequestered, released at the end of the 1,000-year millennium for the final battle, and that battle is called the Battle of Gog and Magog. And let me share this and bring this all to conclusion. I think we've covered it pretty well, and I'll look over the notes and see if there's something else we want to add before we go to the seventh bowl next time. But the battle is going to be over very quickly. Jesus is going to return to rescue his people and defeat his enemies. The slaughter of the world's armies is going to be unimaginable. Remember the blood splattered several feet high, perhaps running in streams throughout a distance of 200 miles. The sixth bowl is setting the stage for the brief battle of the seventh and the final plague is going to hit. So this is a short battle. The seventh plague in verses 17 through 21 is about to happen. And the seventh bowl is the final outpouring of the wrath of God. So, any questions or comments?
So is the elevation 2,000 feet for that area on the map? Is that the highest point?
Sure. I have no idea.
Oh. Well, like you said, rolling hills.
Yeah, their elevation is low, and their mountains. Mount Hermon is the biggest mountain in, I think, anywhere, in Israel, and that's the northern border. But they call them mountains. You have Gerizim, and you have above Shechem, and you have the other one, Ebal. And they're like, Mount Gerizim reminded me of a mountain. If you've ever been to Tucson and you see a mountain,
Yeah.
and you drove up there, I used to run up there all the time or take recruits up there, and it's a cool thing. But Mount Gerizim, when I first went there, reminded me of a mountain. And I don't know if that's exactly the same, but in my mind, the height of Mount Gerizim and a mountain remind me the same. So yeah, it's a pretty flat area, low area, foothills. And then they have their tells, T-E-L, and those are the hills. 14, and many of those are civilizations that have not been dug up. And it's believed that somewhere around 14,000 of these have not been touched yet in Israel. And that's where a city or a town existed, and usually when it got destroyed, they'd build on top of it. And so you have this, they just look like hills. They look like the Midwest with a hill with grass growing on it. And it's fascinating to think that underneath there, because you're in a country that's been around and had civilization for 4,000 to 6,000 years, at least. Any comments, questions? Caleb, anything to add? Oh. Is the blood literally going to be 6 feet high?
Yes.
And I think you're right. Yeah, I think it is. But some say it's just splattered that high. You know, they're trying because they can't imagine. Oh, yes. Okay, 6 feet high. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I thought this worked pretty good, but I'm up a few inches. Oh, Matt did that. Well, I think Matt.
I pointed out there. I'm like, what is he saying? 6 feet here?
Well, I'm counting a few inches of the ground, but you're so from where I am. Yeah, as tall as the George. Right? Matt, why don't you close in prayer? How's that?
Father
Thank
God,
you.
we just thank you so much for the clear teaching of your word, and we just praise you that we have a pastor that looks into these things and prepares the meal and sets it before us in a way that we can understand. We just praise you for that. We ask that you bless each and every one of us here and all those that are not here as well. Bless us with a productive week in being about your business. Opening our eyes to all the opportunities that you set before us to speak the truth, to stand on your word, and just be about your business. We just praise you for the opening of our eyes. Yes. We look forward to seeing more and more eyes open. So, we look for you for that. Bless us this week. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.